I apologize for turning my back on you. Some of you I want. Anyway, but I thank all of you for coming today, and I thank all my friends, and I will try to not turn my back. I want to thank Karen Fan. Karen, thank you for the great job you continue to do. And our Prescott City Councilman, two good Irishmen, Len Scarmardo and Chris Kukio. Right?
Kukio.
Kukio.
Kuknio.
Kukio. Kukio.
Kuknio.
Kuknio. Kuknio. Up the Irish. Thank you. By the way, on that subject, there's only one ethnic joke you can tell in American politics, and it's Irish jokes. You cannot tell an Italian joke, a Polish joke, or any other joke. You can only tell Irish jokes. Don't ask me why that happens to be. So, it seems that there's a bar in Boston, and it's two guys, one down at either end of the bar, and one gets up and walks down the other end of the bar and sits down next to the guy and says, "Hey, where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Ireland." He says, "Really?" He says, "I'm from Ireland too." He says, "Well, let me buy you a drink." He says, "Let me buy you a drink." They're buying each other drinks back and forth. The guy says, "Where are you from in Ireland?" He said, I'm from Dublin." He says, "I'm from Dublin." What? But buying each other drinks. Like, "Where'd you go to high school?" He said, "I went to St. Mary's." "You couldn't have gone to St. Mary's." "I went to St. Mary's." Back and forth, buying each other drinks. The guy walks in, sees all the commotion down at the other end of the bar, and says, "Hey, the bartender, what's going on down there?" The bartender said, "It's just the O'Reilly twins getting drunk again." So, anyway, that's my favorite Irish joke. So, but I'm here on a very serious subject, and I know that you are here because you want to discuss with me, particularly the issue of Syria, but immigration is also on people's minds, and there's other issues that are on people's minds. So, I think that my job, and I've done this now for more than 30 years, is to spend as much time as I can when I come back from Washington with my constituents and have a discussion with them. Not to lecture, not to impose my views, but to give you one report as to the discussion that's going on in Washington, and to get your views and ideas and thoughts so that I can best represent you. Now, I also know that there are times when you don't agree with my judgment. That's part, exactly, that is part of the game. But I don't think, sir, that you can argue that I don't listen to the people of this state. I just had 2 town hall meetings, and I have, when I have rendered my judgment, taking into serious consideration the views of the people I represent, I have then made those decisions and stood on the ballot for the approval or disapproval of the people of my state. But a most vital part of it is this process that we are going through of a town hall meeting. Now, I'd just like to mention one thing, and that is that in order for us to have that discussion, and you can be as impassioned as you want to be, and as insulting as you want to be, if that makes you feel better. But please be respectful in that we don't interrupt each other. In other words, please allow, because if we start yelling, then people are not allowed to convey their views. So that's all that I ask. Now I'd like to say a few words about Syria, and then I know my Air Force friend here is very interested. I've always respected the Air Force. Actually, not a lot, but anyway, so I'll let you go first. But the situation is serious. It's of the utmost seriousness. And I'd like to start out that I know how weary people are. The war in Iraq was a terrible tragedy. 4,000 brave Americans, many thousands that have permanent injuries from that conflict. We sold that conflict to the American people in support of it, saying that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and he didn't. And Americans are still very, very unhappy about that whole conflict. And I believe that that is understandable, and it has bred significant skepticism about whether the United States of America should be involved, and if so, is it going to be a slippery slope down to another involvement? I see my fellow Vietnam veteran there nodding his head in agreement. I think you would all agree with that. So that skepticism on the part of the American people and the people of Arizona, particularly since we are so heavily military-oriented and veteran-oriented, it is a legitimate and I think valid concern. So let me just mention a few facts to you and why I think America's national security is involved here. First of all, if we're going to do something, it seems to me that we've got to assure the American people that there will be no American boots on the ground under any circumstances. Again, because of what happened in both Iraq and Afghanistan. But I would point out to you that this country, which in many ways is one of the really important countries in the Arab world, there's about 100% literacy, it's a cultural and moderate country, very moderate country, that would not agree to be governed by jihadists or extremists. But they've undergone some pretty horrific experiences. Right now, 20% of the Syrian population are refugees. 5% of the population of Syria has been killed or wounded. There is 1 million children who are now refugees. 1 million children. And the effect that this has had, and 100,000 people have been massacred. And so the effect of this has been an outflow of refugees into the surrounding countries, which has destabilized those countries. The King of Jordan has said, well, 15% of the population of Jordan is refugee. Think of what if 15% of our population were refugees, the effect that it would have on our population as well. So, and Bashar Assad's indoctrination of his people is to torture, rape, and murder. And so it's a pretty horrific thing. And some of you are thinking right now, horrific things go on in a lot of places in the world, and the United States doesn't intervene, and that's true. But if Jordan is destabilized, our best friend probably in that area, if the King of Jordan says he can't last a year, if Lebanon becomes a place of sectarian violence, which it already is erupted into, and Iraq is now deteriorating in the most alarming fashion, and Shia-Sunni conflict is going on, and all of this being sponsored by Iran, as the Iranians continue with the centrifuges spinning and developing nuclear weapons, which are a direct threat to the state of Israel. They have stated that they want to wipe Israel off the map. That was the words of the Ayatollah in Iran. So it has consequences that could threaten our national security interests and the security of the state of Israel. Now, so what are our options? It seems to me it's do nothing. It seems to me the other option is to try to maybe equalize the situation on the combat between the Free Syrian Army and Bashar Assad. Every day, tons of military equipment flies into Damascus to Bashar Assad from Russia and from Iran. There's 5,000 Hezbollah. These are these Muslim extremists from southern Lebanon that are fighting to kill the Free Syrian on the side of Bashar Assad. And the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is active, and they are bringing Syrians into Iran and sending them back to be involved in the killing fields. So what has Bashar Assad done? Well, it's well documented, there's no doubt about it, that he has used small amounts of chemical weapons, sarin gas. And now, because, and I won't go into all the details, but he felt a certain area had to be cleansed of the Free Syrian Army, he used massive amounts of chemical gas. And I'm sure you saw, horrified as all of us were, the pictures of the dead children stacked up, and the women, and you know, we all know how horrific it is, and our hearts go out to them. So my argument is that, one, we cannot and should not in any way contemplate putting Americans in jeopardy. And by the way, we can take out Bashar Assad's assets with standoff weaponry. Israelis have done it 4 times in the last year or so, because there were weapons that were being transported to southern Lebanon for Hezbollah that were going to be used, sophisticated weapons, and the Israelis took them out with standoff weapons. And we can do that because we can act in farther enough away from the envelope of their air defenses. So it seems to me that we should get weapons to the Free Syrian Army. And I know this, people, and I can tell you that there are elements, there are radical elements, jihadists, Al-Qaeda, that are fighting. By the way, 2 years ago they were not. But we know how to get the weapons to the right people, and it seems to me that we should give them something with which to fight with. And hopefully that they will then be able to counter the tanks and artillery and aircraft that Bashar Assad has. Second of all, I think we should take out their runways and their air and their maintenance and their fuel so that it negates their air capability. Now, the President of the United States has said recently that, well, we want, quote, shot across the bow. I'm not sure that that does much, to tell you the truth. And we want a negotiated settlement. Yes, we want a negotiated settlement. And the way you get that is that if the Free Syrian Army can have the advantage on the battlefield, then there can be a negotiated settlement for Bashar Assad to leave. So I've probably talked too long, but I think I'm trying to depict you the situation as I see. But I also finally would say, if we do nothing, and the President of the United States has said that what he did, that he's going to act, and then doesn't act, you can imagine the lesson that Iran and other countries take when the President of the most powerful nation in the world says that he's going to take action and doesn't. My colleagues in the Senate, my colleagues in the House share your skepticism. And the President, I think, realizes that because this morning he said he's going to go on national television on Tuesday. I hope that the President of the United States, that we will respect the President of the United States because we respect the institution of the Presidency of the United States, and that we will listen to him. But I believe that his message has got to be more than just tell Bashar Assad not to use chemical weapons anymore. Those chemical weapons killed 1,000 people. Bashar Assad has already massacred 100,000 people using other weapons as well. So with that, and I'm glad that I know that some of you are eager to discuss the issue of immigration reform as well, another non-controversial subject here in Prescott. And I'd be glad to discuss that and the prospects for it as well. If you'd like to come in a little more, can they come in a little more, officer? You haven't missed a thing. Please, you can come in a little further if you want to, since there's people behind you. Thank you. So, first question goes to the United States Air Force.
My name is Dominic Avery, and we have one thing in common, we're the same age. Within a couple of months.
Yeah, a little closer.
Here is, I think, the big issue.
I think you got it covered.
Okay, you're asking us, Senator, with due respect to you, and I have a great deal of respect for you. I know your history. We served basically during the same period of time. Certainly my career was not up to yours. I was a lowly enlisted man, a master sergeant. But I ended up as a CEO.
That's the brain setting leadership.
We did the job. I kept you in the air. I turned the wrenches. Okay. I was the CEO of a small defense company in California that supplied every major propeller shaft bearing for the Aegis, the DDGs, the LHDs, the AOEs, the Titans. I'm not an anti-war person. I'm an ex-military man. I understand there's evil in this world. But you're asking us, sir, to support probably one of the most incompetent people that we've had running this country. Now, I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm just going by logic and history. And it's just one of those things. But the man has decimated our military. I mean, really decimated it through these social programs, which I know we need to have. We need to support and pull people up. And I've come to the conclusion, I said to my wife the other day, you know, I just made up a new slogan for this president. I didn't say what I said. I did not say what I said. That's this red line comment. He goes back, he flip-flops, he does it constantly. And we're expected to support this man and his administration? Oh my God, Senator, this is not a good situation. That's why most of us are in here. I did a survey in my neighborhood this morning before I came up here. I've got people whose sons are, 2 sons in the SEALs, of all things. 2 solid young men, probably the best of the best. And they're saying, Dominic, this is not right. Of course, they've seen, and you and I, Korea, Vietnam, we lost 50,000 young men. We lost 250,000 wounded. I walked the halls of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Hospital when I was being mustered out. Military transport came in. There was a young lieutenant and a young sergeant sitting in the same room, no legs. And we see this over and over again. We got Iraq, we got Afghanistan. What have we accomplished? These people are fanatics in their beliefs. They're going to go on to killing each other when we leave. You know that, and I know it. And now we're going to go into Syria and help people who are totally against us. And that's why most of us are against this situation. And we got to have an end game. What are we going to do? How are we going to get that sarin gas? It's probably going to be moved over to Iran. We probably should be looking at Iran closer than we're looking at Syria. They're the real danger. Because when they get a nuclear weapon, we're in big trouble. That's all I have to say, sir, and I hope you think it through. Please. That's it. What I say.
Thank you for your service as a Master Sergeant. Everything I ever learned about leadership, I learned from a Chief Petty Officer. So I thank you for your service. And I think that there's validity to everything you stated. I would say that if now that the President of the United States is not, after saying that the United States is going to act, doesn't, then again, I wonder about that message that is being sent. As far as Afghanistan is concerned, I don't want to revisit history too much with you, but I think it's clear why we went to Afghanistan. We know that Al-Qaeda and the attacks of 9/11 took place from people that were trained and came from Afghanistan. And we said that those people had to be rid of, or we would have to go after them. I think that now, whether it was handled right or not, but as far as Iraq is concerned, I think, as you know, it was based on the premise that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and those have not appeared yet. And so, when I tell you that he has used gas, chemicals, then obviously you want to see the proof. Because the Secretary of State of the United States of America said to the world that he did have it. So your cynicism, skepticism, not cynicism, skepticism, I think is well-founded. Now I see another unhappy Vietnam veteran back there, so I'd like to give him the microphone too. This is Veterans Day.
I don't think I'm going to need this because I'll just use
Can't hear you.
Senator McCain, my name is Noel Campbell. I'm like you. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was a Navy pilot. I flew combat in Vietnam. And I think...
Better than I was.
Well, just luckier, sir. Just luckier. The Vietnam experience plays into a lot here. I remember the Tonkin Gulf Resolution. And I remember we're not going to send American boys to fight for Asian boys, LBJ. I remember that. And I remember we got involved in Vietnam, and I remember the 58,000 who died. Your friends and my friends. Okay? Now we fast forward to 2 loser wars, Iraq and Afghanistan. Same scenario. And now we're being asked to get involved into Syria by an act of war. If you fire Scud missiles into that country, that is an act of war. And if we're going to go to war, we need the Congress of the United States to declare war.
Yes.
No more of this presidential war making.
Right.
That's how I feel about it.
Thank you very much. There was a couple of conflicts in between, one of them Bosnia, where Kosovo we bombed for 78 days and brought Milosevic down. Ronald Reagan, by the way, who I think most of us admire, invaded Grenada one night without asking the permission of Congress and then informed us later on. Both in Bosnia and Kosovo, we did not send a single military person on the ground there. So I think it might be a good idea to at least give it some balance. But I think, honestly, that people like you and me, who every time we go to the wall, see those names engraved on black granite, swear to ourselves that we will never let something like that happen again. That's one of the reasons, if there is a standoff strikes, I promise you that if we put an American boot on the ground, I will do whatever I can to stop it, including lying down in front of the Pennsylvania Avenue. I mean that. I cannot have American boots on the ground. And I thank you for your service, and I'm grateful to know you. Back here, I think, is... Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, wait, a woman.
A woman.
A woman. You know, chauvinist cake that I am.
You'll be able to hear it.
Thank you. My question is, if we pass this resolution to strike on Syria, we're guaranteeing that they are not going to respond, and if they do, then we're going to run tail?
Thank you for the question. I think it's an important one. I mentioned to you 4 times the Israelis have struck Syria. 4 times. They've gone in, they've stood off and hit specific targets within Syria. The Syrians haven't done a damn thing. And so if they don't respond to Israel in 4 attacks, then I think that the chances of them responding in a way to the United States of America odds are very, very slim.
But if they do?
Yeah.
If they do, then you have to ask the question, what can they do? We have missile defenses. The Israelis have Iron Dome. The Israeli Prime Minister 2 days ago said, in case of the United States taking action against Syria, quote, Israel can take care of itself. And I can assure you, the United States of America can take care of itself. That's why your tax dollars have been
Wasted.
sometimes, some of it.
Excuse me.
Some of it. Now, and we need another woman, I'm sorry, but, yes, ma'am.
Senator McCain. Given the fact that wars cost billions of dollars and kill people, and the fact that there's a 2-digit unemployment rate in America's inner cities among black-skinned people like President Obama, and increasing use of food stamps, strongly encouraged by the president, government-run schools that are more concerned with promoting anti-Christian beliefs and values, and the brainwashing of our precious children to have slave-like mentality, the aborting of millions of helpless babies by Planned Parenthood. Why don't you and the Gang of Eight apply the same warlike vengeance and effort to dismantle the Department of Education, remove government regulations that inhibit economical progress, stop giving illegal alien citizenship so they can vote for a dictator in America, and stop the crimes perpetrated by often skilless invaders, and let my people and all American citizens thrive.
Thank you, and you make many valid points. In fact, some of those would have happened if you had voted for me for President of the United States.
I have a big sign in my yard.
I
Vote
thank
for
you,
John McCain.
and I'm grateful. I really am. And, by the way, after I lost, I slept like a baby. Sleep 2 hours, wake up and cry. Sleep 2 hours. Could I say you make a very important point? You really do. In all seriousness, your points are very well made. We have obligations in our society, and we have still millions of Americans. Everybody celebrated that today that the unemployment rate's only down to 7.3%, not counting those millions of Americans who have become so discouraged that they've stopped looking for work. We have a lot to do in America, I agree with you. But also I would remind you, one thing about America is that we do what we can to prevent tragedies in other places in the world. There are 1 million children now, Syrian children, that are refugees. There are these refugee camps, you have to see them to believe how horrible they are, how terrible they are. The conditions are just incredibly bad.
So the Saudis have plenty of money.
And what's that?
The Saudis have plenty of money to take care of those people. It's not our responsibility.
It's not a matter, sir, of our responsibility. Because, let me respond to you, sir. The fact is, these people are flooding out, and no amount of money it takes care of them. They're coming out by the thousands, and there's no country that can take that many people, not even the United States of America, with all the Saudi money. It's not a matter of money, it's a matter of these people. Let me
Syria going to
finish.
make a place for them?
What's that?
How is bombing Syria going to make a place
Maybe
for
it
them?
stops the flow of refugees. Did you think about that? We don't care about these people, that's fine with me, man. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. McCain. I mean this with all due respect, sir, as elected official for our country. We, the people, elected you to be representative of the people and against this and for this great nation. But for far too long now, and the rest of Congress, including the executive branch of government, along with the judicial and legislative, have turned your back on the American people and their core values and principles. I can say with great confidence and speak on behalf of all Americans that your actions against this country are treasonous.
Yes.
All of you, against the will of the American people, have aided and abetted the enemy. You and the rest of Congress, including the President of the United States, have went against the will of your people in Syria, regardless of your position and vote, whether it is a yes or no, is still a political smokescreen, and believe wholeheartedly you do not care about the will and well-being of America or its people. You lied to the American people about the chemical attacks in Syria. The American people know that it was our government that is most likely responsible. There is strong evidence, including video, that these attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda, and you advocate starting a war, even maybe world war, by taking the same attack and blaming it on Assad. President Barack Hussein Obama has been supporting terrorism. The United States has been funding and aiding organizations, including the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, for many years now. The same enemy we're supposed to be defeating on the battlefield. At least one country in this world stood up against this government terrorism that you guys support in Egypt. The people of Egypt throughout Mohammed Morsi, which Obama supported as well, as countless Christians have lost their lives under evil people such as this. You swore an oath to protect us and protect from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. The simple irony is the domestic enemy now in this country is the people in government, the United States. And McCain and you and the rest of our leaders are accountable for their actions. It's too bad someone like me is not in office to hold you accountable. Because if I was in a position of power or authority, I would have you all arrested and tried for treason against my country under the grounds of 18 U.S.C. 2381 treason U.S. Code. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason. That is the code. The American people are sick of it. This country rose up against you. And racial, hang on, I haven't said free speech, I haven't finished. The American people opposed to going to war with Syria, which includes many Marines and other veterans by the thousands, was 499 to 1. That is 99% of the people of this country. So if you and the rest of this government are truly for the American people and representatives of us, I suggest this time you listen, because nobody wants another war or strike in Syria or anywhere else. Bring our brothers and sisters home. I am truly disgusted that you people are my leaders.
Thank you.
Well, sir, I look forward to you running for office. Nobody's preventing you from that, even in this treasonous country. Register, I don't know if you're registered to vote or not, and run for office, and we'll be glad to put you to up for the voters and have their opinion. I put myself up to voters now 8 times, and except for deviation on the way to the White House, they have approved of my performance, and and I understand that there's a great deal of controversy about some issues. But honestly, sir, when you say that we are guilty of treason, that is something that, frankly, I can't dignify with a response. I can't fight a civil war without well, I can't respond to a charge like that because it would be beneath me. So, could I ask? Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. My name is Raid Dalvik. I'm Syrian American. My name is Raid Dalvik. I'm Syrian American. I was in Syria when the revolution broke out in 2011. I was arrested and almost tortured to death. I have lost 7 of my cousins. 7 of my cousins were killed by the Assad militias, and I have 4 of my relatives missing, potentially killed, unfortunately. The 3 of my cousins were tortured to death. Imagine somebody will get detained and 20 days after, they will give you a call to come and take his stuff and take the body, you know, all blue and all bruises from top to bottom. I just need to mention very quick a couple of the things that the gentleman, mentioned here. God knows that I agree with you, and I understand that U.S. is very, very tired of intervening here and there. But the Syrian issue is completely different. Okay, now nobody likes war. We don't like war. But I need to remind everybody that without the war that U.S. stood up for in the Second World War, the Nazis would have been leading the whole Europe and maybe the world. Sometimes you need to force the war in order to accomplish a peace, okay? And those dictatorships, the only language that they understand is the war. Without the war, in 1991, in the Second World War, in the Gulf, Saddam Hussein would have been occupying Kuwait up until now. And without the war that U.S., the land of the free, that had stood up for in Bosnia, the massacre would have been taking place up until this second. We hate the war. We don't like the war, but sometimes, or those tyrants, the only language they understand is the force. I don't like to see my country, getting striked, and I know that a lot of civilians might die in this, strike. It happened, and I wish that it happened today before tomorrow. But believe me, I will take my chances. I would love to take my chances in the collateral damage if those military bases and military airports that have killed over 100,000 people of my country will get destroyed and stop the massacre. I need to tell everybody that more than 300,000 people have been killed in Syria so far. The 100,000 that everybody's talking about, this is the registered number in the UN. This is the number of the people who are registered by name. I have 4 of my relatives missing already, potentially killed. The number is way bigger than that. And as far as the fear of Al-Qaeda, I need to tell everybody, because some people are saying that we don't need al-Assad to go because we don't need Al-Qaeda to stop. If al-Assad continue in his massacre, then Al-Qaeda's influence will get bigger and bigger. This is the truth. Because the more the country gets dismantled, okay, the more Al-Qaeda influence will happen. Why Al-Qaeda is so active in Afghanistan? Why Al-Qaeda is so active in Iraq? Because the country is completely dismantled. You know, those people came from all over because Bashar al-Assad has launched all-out assault on the people.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Okay, so what I need to say is the longer this conflict goes, the more Al-Qaeda will get into Syria. We don't like Al-Qaeda. We don't need them. We are fighting them already in the northeast of Syria.
Thank you.
We are fighting them already in the only liberated city in Syria, which is called Raqqa. They don't belong there.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Please meet.
You gotta stop.
Thank
now
you.
because
Okay. Sorry.
The lady right behind you.
First of all, let me give you a great round of applause.
Right up to you.
This represents how the American people feel about what you're going through, okay? However, everything we've heard is not the solution.
You've got to hold it.
You're just giving us more killing. The repetition of history. You're the one that fought for what you call the expansion in Iraq. Did it work? The surge. It worked.
The surge
Okay?
worked.
The surge worked.
Yes, it did.
Do you have a goal beyond 10 Tomahawk missiles going into Syria? The last time I thought about it, America sent messages with words, dollars, visits, not bombs. And we wish the best for your country. However, if you want to invade the area, send in the Red Cross. Send in the hospital ship that's out there. What except, it's a very vulgar expression, but our warships say, mine's bigger than yours.
Could I say, you're very eloquent. Thank you. I just comment on the Red Cross. They've tried to get in many, many times, and Bashar Assad has not allowed him to do so. But I do put this lady right here, and then I'll come over to the gentleman in the red shirt who is very eager. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Gail Rumble. You said we need to back our president with doing something. Maybe the thing our president should do is show respect to the Middle East countries and ask them to take the lead on this. Ask them to take control of this and ask them to fund it. They have a vested interest in stability in the area, not only in Syria, but in Iran. And countries such as Saudi Arabia and Qatar have the financial resources to deal with that. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you very much. They don't have the military capability, and the country that has the most is Iran, and Iran is the one that's heavily involved. They're sending plane loads of weapons, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They have ordered Hezbollah out of southern Lebanon, 5,000 of them, to go and fight there. The countries that you're talking about, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, they have very small populations. They got lots of money, they have very small populations. They could not stand up militarily against the Iranians. I mean, that's just the facts on the ground. But I appreciate your sentiment very much.
We could sell it to them. We could sell them the resources, they could buy the mercenaries.
They don't have the people.
They could buy the mercenaries.
Buy mercenaries? I don't think we want to be in that business.
Well,
Thank you. Here you go. All right, sir. You're ready. I know you've been eager. I know you've been eager.
First of all, am I okay? Sound? I want to tell you I was a bit remiss. I found out you're younger than me. I missed Vietnam.
There's not many of us left.
Well, I was in Korea. I didn't do any killing, but I joined the Marines in '53, and I found out I was younger. But remember, Korea, we're still paying for that. North Korea is the most dangerous country outside of Iran. So my mechanic said, you're going to pay me now or you're going to pay me later. I think the negotiated opportunity for peace via Russia, Iran, United States is best. The best opportunity is if we strike and bring them to the table. Thank you so much for your service.
Well, thank you for yours. And can I say that, you know, the Korean War veterans, they're called the Forgotten Warriors. Recently, we, the word isn't celebrated, commemorated the 60th anniversary. And I want to thank you for your service. It's memorable. And the only thing I would disagree with you on is that if the Chinese and the North Koreans had been able to take South Korea, you would have had a very different landscape in Asia when you look at where Korea sits. But I also agree with you, this young man that now is in charge is very, very dangerous. By the way, in case you missed it, he just had his ex-girlfriend executed. Now, I know there's some people that think that's a good idea, but I mean, it's remarkable the things that this guy has done. But I would argue that if Harry Truman had pulled us out of Korea and that we had lost South Korea, the world would be a very different place. And it's because of the sacrifice that you made and that of your friends that we won the Cold War, in my view. Thank you.
Senator?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
If you're media, well, I'll talk to you after. So, I'll talk to you after.
How do you do, sir? I was not in the service. I was on the other side when you were in prison. I was asked to make bombs by the Weather Underground and Black Panther Hippie Group in California. So I decided to become a Republican like Martin Luther King. Now, I have dealt with the Contras, the Mujahideen, the Phalangists. I have dealt in Thailand with the anti-terrorist group of Muslim terrorism.
Would you repeat one more time? You were asked to build bombs by the weathermen?
Yes, indeed.
Please. You are an interesting man.
Well, unfortunately, my father was OSS in China, and I thought that I would learn about communism the hard way. And I decided after that I was not a communist. I was an American citizen that had a republic in mind. Now, I learned bluntly from people overseas. I helped arm people. I know that people over there have been decimated. This gentleman's family has been decimated. They do not have the Second Amendment. You're going to arm people. You're dismantling our Second Amendment in this country. Or are you going to ask the people that you're going to arm in Syria for a 10-day waiting period on a background check? Are you going to give them a 10-round magazine, and are they going to get RP-47s to knock out tanks? I've dealt with people doing this. I was in Africa. I did not strangle Mugabe on the plane when Mugabe, I found out later, murdered people that I knew after the time in Zimbabwe. The whole idea behind it is that we're helping Americans first. We strike Syria. What about the people, the Christians and others that do want to fight? Are you going to help them for real, or are they going to be backed up later, or dropped like they did with Charlie's war in Afghanistan when I dealt with the Mujahideen guy? Are we going to end up having our rights taken away so we can't arm ourselves to stop and prevent this kind of situation all over the world? They have no Second Amendment. We have the right under God to defend ourselves. I can open my big mouth to say we're all equal under God. Second Amendment means I can defend that truth.
Can I just say to start with, I've had some interesting people come to town hall meetings. But I'd like to maybe have a cup of coffee with you sometime and hear of the incredible adventures, that you have had. Yes, I think we should always be concerned about our Second Amendment rights. And really one of the aspects, the reason why I want to give these people weapons is because, by the way, not one United States weapon has gotten to the Free Syrian Army. Now, Saudi weapons have, but not American weapons. Meanwhile, plane load after plane load arrives from Russia and from Iran with sophisticated weapons that these people that are given to Bashar al-Assad. As you may recall, the Free Syrian Army was winning a couple of years ago. And then the Iranians went all in. So there really is the Iranian implication of this as well as the Syrian implication. So,
Which is my
but I
question.
think that if anybody understands that, with your background, certainly have had a fascinating
We
life.
are unaccompanied Christians.
That's my question.
I think we can, and I think we are to some degree, but that's an excellent question.
There's a joke.
Yes, ma'am, all the way in the back, yes, ma'am.
That's been the pink elephant in the room as far as I'm concerned. And these are him. That's been the pink elephant in the room as far as I'm concerned, because what I'm reading is that Russia has sent at least half a dozen of their ships into the area, and even though Obama is supposed to be waiting for congressional approval, he has asked the Pentagon to expand the places that are to be bombed. And another argument is that we can't bomb the chemical weapons because that's going to kill more people. We all know that the bad guys put their chemical weapons behind their women and children. So who are we fighting? We're not fighting Assad. We're fighting Russia and Iran. So why don't we take our war to Iran?
How about World War III?
Exactly. Okay, I'll get to you next, sir. Excellent questions and excellent points. One, I don't care how many ships the Russians send, they're not going to take on the United States of America. I guarantee you that. They're not going to do it. They've had many opportunities going all the way back, all the way back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I can guarantee you that. I have enough knowledge of the Russians, and I have enough knowledge of what firepower is all about. But on the second, as far as the second point was most important.
Iran.
Oh, Iran. Yes.
We
The
should take
second point is Iran. Yes.
to Iran. If they are the problem,
President
let's take it to them.
The President of the United States has said this about Iran. Now,
No.
okay, wait a minute, I'll tell you why. I will tell you what.
Give
The
me
President of the
one
United States has said that if Iranians acquire, it is unacceptable for the Iranians to acquire nuclear weapons. And not only has the President of the United States said that, but the Prime Minister of Israel has said it. I am telling you what the Prime Minister of Israel said.
His
So,
lips were moving. Obama's lips were
but
moving.
again, you may not want to believe President Obama. You believe the Prime Minister of Israel, who is correct. You don't believe him, huh? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you believe him? Because it's because the Iranians have said they're going to wipe Israel off the map, and the Israelis are not going to allow that to happen.
Not Syria said, Iran said they were going to wipe Israel.
That's right.
And Iran is supporting the rebels or whoever. I don't care.
And the Russians
but
are
our
too.
war, if we're going to deploy third and fourth and fifth times, our war needs to be taken to the problem, not to Syria.
The problem right now is 100,000 people have been massacred in
That's
Syria.
not the problem.
Maybe in your view that's not a problem. In my view it's a problem.
100,000 Christians have been murdered
No, they haven't.
all over the world. I have a list.
Here, 100,000 Christians died. That's true.
Well, Senator, you have a friend in me in a lot of respect. I'm a World War II veteran.
What branch?
U.S. Navy, in the shoe. Same state.
Can't hear you.
I went in May of 1942, served on the USS Beagle, Prescott destroyer. We escorted the new ship, the Essex, the original Essex, to Down and Pearl. And there, I found out throughout the Pacific.
Stay close to them.
I've always wondered why the Japanese attacked us, because all us kids that went in, we thought they were idiots, which it turned out they were, to think that we wouldn't fight and defeat them. They destroyed our ships and they were in trouble. Just because I'm 16, don't worry about that. There's about 40,000 16s in the U.S. Navy. probably 20,000 in the Marines, 100,000 in the Army, so it wasn't all that unusual. But in any case, there's a question of power. Do we have the power to do what we did during World War II? That was total war. My understanding is that we defeated Japan with 7% of our total power. The rest of it was basically devoted to defeating Germany. So it just shows what we can do under the right circumstances. But then there's the limit of power. Do we actually have, can we exert the power to reform all the ills of the world? And my belief is that's an impossibility. Now we look at the situation in Syria, what isn't mentioned, that the man in charge there, no doubt a beast. But I know one thing about World War II, there's a lot of propaganda that goes back and forth. And a lot of it turned out to be lies. Some of it was for purposes of keeping up morale and one thing and another. And I think some of that probably may be directed against the situation in the Middle East. For instance, no one mentions the fact that this Syrian president is an Alawite. I'm sure you know what the Alawite is.
Sure, but you've got a lot of people.
The point being that he is a minority in his own country, and he has kept Christians safe in a country where Christians may very well be slaughtered after the Europeans and us leave the country. I don't know that as a fact. It's just a theory, but I don't like the idea of us getting into something where there's very little, if anything, to be gained by our country.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service, and our greatest generation, we're always honored to be in your presence, and we thank you. I would also remind you there's other uses for military power, and that is to be strong enough, though, that the enemy is not eager or wishes to take us on. And the best example of that is the Cold War and Ronald Reagan. Margaret Thatcher once said that Ronald Reagan won the Cold War without firing a shot. And one of the reasons why we got into World War II and were attacked by the Japanese is because they believed we were weak and we were unprepared. And we withdrew to Fortress America while Hitler was doing terrible things, while the Japanese were doing terrible things. And the United States should have learned from that lesson. We cannot withdraw to Fortress America. Otherwise, we'll have another December 7th. And if we ignore the lessons of history, we will repeat them. So thank you. Yes, sir. There's a little Navy bias here today.
Thank you for taking my question. First of all, we all want to thank you for coming to Prescott, everybody's hometown. And I know you've been taking a lot of flack lately, and you're hanging in there, and I respect that very much. My question to you is regarding Syrian airspace. I understand airspace, around the country, but is the sky the limit? How does elevation have anything to do with airspace? And as you probably already know, we've developed a much better bunker bomb. It penetrates deeper with more explosive power. Now, if we had a very good idea where Assad might be hiding, would we be able to drop a bunker bomb from a B-52 and take them out and cut off the head of the snake?
I'm not sure if he's like Gaddafi was. From what I heard, he's constantly on the move, so it may be very difficult to do that. But I want to emphasize to you that what the Israelis did is you stand off outside of their envelope where they can fire their missiles, and you fire yours. 4 times the Israelis have heard of shipments of sophisticated weapons that were going to Hezbollah, who, as you know, are in southern Lebanon, this terrorist group, and they've stood off and taken them out. And by the way, there's been no response from the Syrians, no response from the Iranians, no response from anybody. And so it indicates to me that if we do a similar kind of operation, standoff, not putting anyone in danger, that probably we would get the same response. But I don't want to get into the nuances of it, but it seems to me it has to be more than just pinprick strikes, because that then may him be able to say, see, I resisted the United States. As far as the bunker buster bombs are concerned, those would be most suitable for, if it ever happened, and God forbid, I hope it doesn't happen, that would be used to take out the Iranian nuclear facilities, which, as you know, are deep underground and would be almost impossible, except with that kind of bomb, to penetrate. Could I? Yes, sir.
I too want to thank you, sir, for making this possible, only in America. Are there other viable options available that are being considered by the powers that be, yourself included, and one of which is something I have heard about and find quite attractive to be considering, and that is indicting Mr. Assad, taking him to the World Court, prosecuting him, and throwing him in the clink or whatever you were going to do with him.
Thank you for that question, and if we ever caught him, I think he should be there. There's no doubt that they have committed mass atrocities. There's a convention about the use of chemical weapons. So that after World War I, after the horrible mustard gas experience, the world recoiled and we passed prohibitions against the use of chemical weapons. And there's a reason why it was never used up until in recent years, or certainly not used in money, although Mussolini used them before World War II against the Ethiopians that were called Abyssinians at the time. But I believe that you are right. I believe he's a war criminal, and I believe that there's some way we could get a hold of him. He should be tried, and I don't like to prejudge, but it wouldn't bother me if he was executed.
We should have a trial.
Can he be tried in absentia?
Yes.
No, I believe so. I'd like to look into that, but I think that that's something that we should do. I need a female questioner. Yes, ma'am. This is enough of this male domination. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for taking my question. One issue that I don't think has been raised here at all is that the issue of using chemical weapons is an international law. It was signed by international nations. And why do we think that we should be the police always? Why don't why don't we work together to draw the nations together if truly this is what is needed? Because if we take action unilaterally, that's not even legal. We should be part of a whole, not always taking the lead and putting my tax dollar. Because when this type of action happens, it's being done in my name, because my tax dollar is being used. And yes, if it was done by the whole world, I still would probably oppose it, but it wouldn't be being done in my name. And I don't want to see my tax dollars that should be going to our schools, to the environment, to so many issues here, to again be sent somewhere else.
Thank you very much. The good news is that the United States is the most powerful nation in the world. The bad news is that the United States of America has had from time to time take the brunt of the responsibility. World War II was the United States of America that did most of the work. Korea, my friend there will remember that although there was other nations, 95% of the troops there were American. You can go down the list of conflicts, and the United States has had to lead. It's had to lead, and I would argue that because of our leadership and thanks to our sacrifice, the world is a much better place because of American leadership. The 20th century was called the American century. Prior to December 7th, 1941, literally every American did not want us to have anything to do with the war in Europe. And then we found out, because we sat by and watched these things happen, including the gassing of 6 million Jews that began in the 1930s, that we should have intervened. We should have been more active. We let this guy continue to massacre his own people and to do the things that he's doing, encouraging the Iranians. This lady here said, why don't we go after the Iranians? The Iranians will be encouraged if we don't stop this kind of slaughter. Then I would argue the consequences are serious. But let me, if I could, say again what I said at the beginning. There is skepticism, and there is even outright anger because of the experiences of the Iraq War, and to some degree, the Afghanistan conflict. No one believed when we went to Afghanistan after Al-Qaeda, which is the reason why we went to Afghanistan, that it would last as long as it did. No one believed that after Desert Storm, that would be anything but a short engagement. So we found out that when you put American boots on the ground, it's pretty hard to get those American boots off the ground. One of the men here just mentioned the Vietnam War, when Lyndon Johnson said, we're not going to send a single American soldier. We got to fight for Vietnamese boys or some. Tell me that one again.
We're not going to send one American to fight what Asian boys should be fighting.
Yeah, and so the cynicism, I think, is legitimate, and or the skepticism is legitimate.
Why should
I just hope that we will. I just hope that we will look at this and think for a moment, too, as well, about the fact that there's now 5 million refugees and 1 million children have had to leave their homes, and some of them watch their parents slaughtered before their eyes. I met a group of young women in Jordan in a refugee camp who had been gang raped. We are a Judeo-Christian principled nation, and if we can, without risking any American lives, reverse that situation, then I think I would ask for your consideration. I'm not asking for your support or your approval, but I'm asking for your consideration. I will be going back to Washington on Sunday or Monday, and we will begin this debate. And in that debate, I'm going to convey the message of the majority of the people here. That is, that they need to be, let me finish, sir, that is, that you have to be convinced that this is a worthwhile endeavor if we intervene militarily by attacking, by orchestrating attacks that will, even if they do not entail the risk of a single American serviceman or woman. I will convey that message when I go back to these discussions and debates that we are going to have on the floor of the Senate. So I have been...
We don't want it.
I got that. Okay, I got that. So I want to say thank you for coming. I have to, since I had a son in the Marine Corps, you know, I used to say, quite often when I'm a Navy person, I used to say that I tried to get in the Marine Corps when I graduated from the Naval Academy, but my parents were married. Then I had a son who joined the Marines at age 18, and he came back and he said, you know, Dad, he said, the Marines are part of the Navy Department, the men's department. So, anyway.
Are you still going to vote yes for this next week?
Let me just say with the, it depends on what the resolution is and how and what the commitment of the President is. And
if 90% of us are against it, are you going to keep your yes vote?
You're our representative.
Will you let this gentleman speak? Show a little courtesy, please.
First, I just want to say if the Senator was locked up by the Vietnamese, if they would have called the Marine Corps, would have had him out in about 2 hours. Anyway, if what I read or heard in the news was correct, rebel forces have attacked Christians and burned Christian churches.
Yep.
Christians.
Yep.
I don't know if that's correct or not. What I'm saying, want to ask you though, is we support rebel forces. So how do we sort out the good rebels and the bad rebels.
That's an excellent question. That's why I went to Syria, because I met General Idris and I met those people. There are bad guy people. Last 2 years they've been flowing in from all over the world, even from some European countries. And there are bad things that happen. The front page of the New York Times was a picture of rebels executing some Syria Bashar al-Assad soldiers. Terrible things, I don't have to tell you, terrible things happen. The war in which this other gentleman and I fought was a thing called the My Lai massacre, where American soldiers killed every man, woman, and child in a village. Terrible things happen in wars. And the reason why we've got to try to get this thing done as quickly as possible is to try to avoid these atrocities that happen in both places. I would say that atrocities are being committed by the rebel forces. Those are things that are happening like the My Lai massacre, people that run amok. What Bashar al-Assad is doing is indoctrinating his people and training his people to rape, to torture, and to murder in order to intimidate the population. That's how they're trained. The people who are the Free Syrian Army are indoctrinated not to, just as our soldiers before the My Lai massacre were told not to, but did anyway. I think that that is a huge difference, and the atrocities of war are those of us who have seen it know we need to explore every other option before we send our young people into harm's way. Thank you for serving. Thank all of you for coming. God bless, and I'll be back. Thank you again for being here today. I appreciate the conversation. I'll take the message back. Thank you very much.